The silent guardians awaken. The void between stars had never felt so empty. For 3 decades, humanity had retreated from galactic affairs, their absence a wound that most species pretended not to notice. The Great Galactic Council, with its gleaming halls and lofty proclamations, had deemed Earth and its colonies too unstable for meaningful diplomatic relations. Translation: the Deathworlders were too unpredictable, too resilient, too dangerous to be given a seat at the table. So humanity had withdrawn, not in defeat, but in calculation. Admiral Elena Voss stood at the viewport of Lunar Command, her reflection ghosting against the stars. At 62, she wore her years like medals, each line on her face earned through decades of vigilance. Her dark eyes, nearly black in the dim light, watched the training exercises of Earth's hidden fleet, ships that officially didn't exist according to galactic registry. Admiral, her aide, Commander Jackson, approached with a data slate. "We've intercepted a distress signal. It's unusual." Voss took the slate without comment, her expression unchanging as she reviewed the message. The Mizari, one of the Council's founding species, elegant, advanced, and notoriously dismissive of lesser races, were under attack. Their homeworld burned. Their colonies fell silent one by one. Their much-vaunted defensive technologies had proven useless against an enemy they couldn't name. And now they begged for help from anyone listening. They specifically mention Earth, Jackson noted, pointing to the final lines of the message. The Deathworlders were right. We should have listened. If anyone can hear this, tell the humans we need them. A cold smile touched Voss's lips. How desperate they must be to admit they need us. Orders, Admiral. Voss handed back the slate. Call the Phoenix Council. All members. Within an hour, the 12 leaders of humanity's hidden government, military commanders, colonial governors, and the directors of Earth's shadow industries, gathered virtually in the secure chamber beneath Lunar Command. Their faces appeared on screens arranged in a circle, grim and attentive, as Voss played the Mizari distress call. They rejected our warnings about defense tactics in the Outer Rim, General Wave of the Mars Military District said when the message ended. They laughed when we tried to tell them about the anomalies our deep space probes detected. And now they burn, added Director Okafor of Terra Nova Colony, her voice neutral. The question before us is simple, Voss said, standing at the center of the circle. Do we respond? Governor Rodriguez of Europa Station leaned forward. Why should we help those who scorned us? Let the Council handle their own problems. Because whatever is destroying the Mizari won't stop with them, answered Admiral Chen of the Solar Fleet. This threat moves from system to system. Sooner or later, it reaches human space, and we face it alone, or we face it with allies, even reluctant ones, Voss concluded. I propose Operation Lazarus. We reveal our true strength and capabilities, but only as much as necessary. The debate continued for hours. Memories of old slights weighed against strategic necessities. In the end, the vote was 10-2 in favor of intervention. Very well, Voss said. The Phantom Fleet will deploy within 12 hours. The Mizari distress signal contained coordinates for their remaining defensive positions. We'll rendezvous there. As the Council members signed off, Commander Jackson approached his admiral. They say the Mizari believe in the concept of unpayable debts. Then they're about to owe humanity the largest debt in their history, Voss replied, her gaze returning to the viewport where the first ship, the HSS Retribution, was already moving into position. Begin Operation Lazarus. Across the solar system and its hidden colonies, alarms sounded. Massive hangar doors built into asteroids, moons, and underground facilities slid open for the first time in decades. Ships that had trained in shadow, crews that had prepared in silence, weapons that violated a dozen Galactic Council treaties, all emerged into the light. Captain Maya Santos stood on the bridge of the Retribution, her command ship and the spearhead of humanity's first fleet action since the withdrawal. At 35, She represented the new generation of human military leadership, born after the Council's rejection, raised on stories of humanity's isolation, trained for a war everyone knew would eventually come. All systems operational, Captain, reported her XO. Commander Takeda. Phantom drives at full capacity. Weapon systems online. Santos nodded, surveying her bridge crew. All focused, all ready. Set course for the Mezari homeworld. Maximum stealth until we assess the situation. The journey would take just under 3 days, even with humanity's classified jump drive technology, another innovation the Council had no knowledge of. As the fleet prepared to depart, Santos received a direct transmission from Admiral Voss. Captain, the Admiral's face appeared on her private screen. The Phoenix Council has authorized full combat protocols. You're not going as diplomats or peacekeepers. Understood, Admiral. Santos straightened. What are the mission parameters? Evaluate the threat. Engage if necessary. Protect any Mezari survivors. Voss paused. And make sure they understand exactly who saved them. Within hours, 50 warships of the Phantom Fleet vanished from the solar system, leaving behind only echoes in the void and rumors among the few independent traders who glimpsed their departure. 3 days later, the fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the Mezari system. The scene that greeted them justified their caution. The once beautiful rings of the gas giant Mezar Prime were now debris fields mixed with the shattered remains of defense platforms. 2 of the system's habitable moons showed impact scars visible from space. The Mezari homeworld itself, Illyrium, had smoke clouds visible even from orbit. Scan for Mezari survivors, Santos ordered, her voice steady despite the destruction visible on the main viewer. And find me the enemy. Captain, the sensor officer called out, voice tight. We're detecting multiple unidentified vessels in orbit around Illyrium. Configuration unknown. Nothing in our databases matches. Santos leaned forward. Show me. The image on the screen shifted to show dark, asymmetrical ships surrounding the Mezari homeworld. They resembled nothing so much as twisted skeletal hands, fingers extended toward the planet's surface. No visible engines, no recognizable weapon systems, yet the destruction they'd caused was undeniable. Life signs? Santos asked. Inconclusive, the science officer replied. The ships register as partially organic, partially something else. They're not mechanical in any way we understand. Santos made her decision. Tactical, prepare to deploy reconnaissance drones. Maximum stealth profile. I want eyes on those ships and whatever's happening on the surface. Captain, the communications officer interrupted. We're receiving a weak transmission from the planet. Mezari emergency channel. Put it through. The voice that emerged from the speakers was strained, the translator struggling to keep up with the rapid, desperate words. This is Chancellor Xalan of the Mezari High Council. Our defenses have failed. The Void Harvesters are in the final stages of planetary extraction. If anyone receives this message, please, help us preserve the archive. Santos exchanged glances with Commander Takeda. Void Harvesters. Unknown reference, the intelligence officer reported after a quick search. No mention in any council records we've accessed. Send a response, Santos ordered. Tight beam, encrypted. The communications officer nodded, establishing the connection. Chancellor Xalan, this is Captain Maya Santos of the Human Defense Force vessel Retribution. We've received your distress call and are in position to render assistance. Please provide information on these Void Harvesters and the location of the archive you mentioned. The silence stretched for nearly a minute before the reply came, the voice now trembling with what might have been disbelief or relief. Humans? You came. After everything. The Chancellor's voice broke before steadying. The Void Harvesters are an ancient species from the galactic core. They consume worlds, literally extract resources until planets collapse. Our legends speak of them, but we thought them extinct. The archive contains our entire civilization's knowledge and genetic repository. It's located beneath the central spire in our capital city, but the harvesters are already inside the outer perimeter. Santos didn't hesitate. We'll deploy immediately. Hold your position and prepare to receive our forces. She cut the transmission and turned to her officers. Prepare strike teams. I want boots on the ground in 30 minutes. Commander Takeda, you'll lead the ground force to secure this archive. Lieutenant Chen, coordinate our ships to engage the harvester vessels. And if the Council detects our presence? Takeda asked. Santos' expression hardened. Admiral Voss was clear. This is no longer about Council regulations or galactic politics. This is about survival, theirs and ultimately ours. If these void harvesters are what the Mazzari claim, we can't allow them to continue unchecked. As the crew mobilized, Santos sent a coded update to Admiral Voss. The message was brief, but would forever change humanity's place in the galaxy. Operation Lazarus initiated. Enemy identified. Entity designated Void Harvesters, engaging to prevent extinction-level event. The Silent Guardians have awakened. Within the hour, humanity's Phantom Fleet revealed itself in full force. Stealth fields dropped as weapon systems came online. Dropships launched toward the besieged planet, while the main fleet moved into attack formation around the harvester vessels. The war that the galaxy had feared from humanity for centuries had finally come, but not as conquerors. They came as the last hope for a civilization that had once rejected them, wielding technologies and tactics born from a death world that had prepared them for this moment all along. And as Captain Santos gave the order to engage, she knew that after today, the galaxy would never see humanity the same way again. When Deathworlders march, the battle erupted with sudden violence as the human fleet revealed itself fully. The Void Harvesters, caught in the midst of their planetary extraction, reacted with surprising speed. Their skeletal ships twisted in space, fingers extending into blade-like appendages that glowed with sickly green energy. Their charging weapons, Lieutenant Chen reported from Tactical. Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. Captain Santos nodded grimly. Defensive pattern Omega. Deploy countermeasures and prepare to return fire. The first harvester attack lanced across space, not energy beams or projectiles, but tendrils of what appeared to be distorted space-time itself, warping and tearing through the void. Evasive maneuvers, Santos ordered as the tendrils reached for her fleet. Most human ships managed to dodge the strange attack, their pilots executing maneuvers that would have torn apart conventional vessels. The HSS Vigilance wasn't so fortunate. A tendril caught its port side, and the ship didn't explode so much as collapse inward, its structure imploding as though crushed by an invisible hand. 800 crew. Commander Takeda murmured from beside Santos. The captain's jaw tightened. All ships, weapon systems free. Focus fire on the lead harvester. Human warships responded in unison, unleashing a barrage that would have annihilated conventional defenses. Kinetic rounds, plasma torpedoes, and focused particle beams converged on the largest harvester vessel. For a moment, it seemed the attack had no effect. Then fractures appeared along the ship's organic hull, spreading like cracks in glass until entire sections broke away. Direct hit, Chen reported, a note of grim satisfaction in her voice. Target structure compromised. Press the advantage, Santos ordered. All ships, continue assault on damaged vessel. On the planet below, the ground situation was even more chaotic. Commander Takeda led 300 elite soldiers from dropships into the burning Mazzari capital. The city had once been a marvel of crystalline architecture and floating gardens. Now it was a landscape of shattered towers and ashen fields. Central Spire is 2 kilometers ahead, Takeda said over the tactical net as his troops secured their landing zone. Harvester forces concentrated around the main plaza. Through helmet cameras and drone feeds, Santos watched the ground operation unfold. The harvesters weren't just ships, they were also creatures, or perhaps the ships themselves were merely extensions of these beings. On the ground, they appeared as tall, spindly figures with too many limbs and no discernible faces, moving with unsettling fluidity through the ruins. "What the hell are these things?" One Marine's voice came through, tight with tension. "Focus on the mission, not the enemy," Takeda responded coolly. "Form up and advance by squads. Remember your training. Unknown hostiles, unknown capabilities. Standard first contact protocols do not apply." The human forces moved through the city with practiced efficiency, encountering groups of surviving Mezari defenders who stared in disbelief at their human rescuers. Centuries of propaganda about violent, unpredictable Deathworlders clashed with the reality of disciplined soldiers now fighting to save them. A Mezari officer, her ornate armor cracked and stained, approached Takeda. "Commander, I am Captain Neela of the Mezari Guard. The few of us left are protecting civilians in the lower levels." Takeda nodded briskly. "We're here for the archive." Chancellor Xalan said it's beneath the central spire. "Yes, but the harvesters have breached the outer defenses. The inner sanctum is sealed, but it won't hold much longer." "Then we move now. Captain Neela, your knowledge of the city layout will be valuable. Join my team." In orbit, the battle intensified. The human fleet had destroyed 3 harvester vessels, but at the cost of 5 of their own ships. The harvesters' spatial distortion weapons proved devastatingly effective when they connected. "Captain," the science officer called out, "I'm detecting energy buildups in the remaining harvester ships. They appear to be combining their efforts." Santos frowned. "Clarify." "The ships are aligning in formation. Energy is flowing between them, creating a unified field. It's similar to the smaller attacks, but orders of magnitude stronger. They're targeting the planet," Santos realized. "Full assault on those ships before they complete whatever they're doing. Divert emergency power to forward shields, and prepare to position between the harvesters and Delirium if necessary." As the space battle reached its critical phase, Commander Takeda's forces fought their way through the central spire. The harvester ground forces used no recognizable weapons. Instead, they reached for humans with their many limbs, and anything they touched began to disintegrate, matter breaking down at the molecular level. "Keep your distance," Takeda ordered as he watched a Marine scream and collapse, his armor turning to dust where a harvester had grasped his shoulder. "Use ranged weapons only." The human soldiers adapted quickly, using explosive rounds and flamers to keep the creatures at bay while advancing toward the archive entrance. Captain Neela led them to a massive door of unknown metallic composition, sealed with energy fields and ancient symbols. "Only a council elder can open this," she said, despair evident in her voice. "And they're all dead or evacuated." Takeda studied the door, then turned to his engineering specialist. "Surgeon Wong, options." Wong ran a scanner over the door's surface, then grinned behind her helmet. "It's sophisticated, sir, but it's still just a lock, and humans are very good at picking locks." While Wong worked to bypass the security, Takeda received an urgent communication from Captain Santos. "Commander, we have a situation. The harvesters are preparing some kind of combined attack on the planet. We believe they're attempting to destabilize the core all at once. You have 15 minutes to secure the archive and evacuate." "Understood, Captain. We're at the final barrier now." In space, Santos made a decision that would be studied in military academies for generations to come. All ships form Aegis pattern around the planet. Prepare to deploy gravitational anchors. Gravitational anchors, another human technology kept secret from the Council, were designed to stabilize spatial distortions. Originally created to protect colonies on geologically unstable worlds, they had never been tested in combat. "Captain," her XO cautioned, "the anchors weren't designed for this. Using them against the harvesters' weapons could create a cascading reaction." "Better a reaction we initiate than one they control," Santos replied. "Deploy on my mark." As the human fleet moved into position, creating a protective shell around the planet, the harvester ships completed their alignment. A massive distortion began to form between them, a writhing tear in reality itself that grew with each passing second. Anchors deployed. The tactical officer reported. Ready on your command. Santos took a deep breath. Activate. The gravitational anchors ignited simultaneously, creating counter-distortions that intercepted the harvester's attack. For a moment, the two forces existed in precarious balance. Then reality itself seemed to shudder as the energies collided. The result was catastrophic for both sides. The harvester formation collapsed as their own weapon was reflected back upon them, their ships twisting and folding in on themselves as though being consumed from within. 3 more human vessels were caught in the backlash, their structures warped beyond recognition before they vanished entirely. On the planet's surface, Sergeant Wong finally bypassed the archive's defenses. The massive door slid open to reveal a vast chamber filled with crystalline structures that pulsed with light, the collected knowledge and genetic material of an entire civilization. "We need to move this," Takeda said, surveying the room. "All of it." "Impossible," Captain Neela responded. "The archive is integrated with the planet itself. It cannot be moved without destroying it." Takeda's mind raced through options before he activated his comm. "Captain Santos, the archive can't be transported. We need to defend it here." Santos' reply was immediate. "Not an option, Commander. The planet is becoming unstable. The harvesters are defeated in orbit, but the damage is done. Geological sensors show the core beginning to fragment." A tense silence followed before Takeda spoke again. "Captain, request permission to attempt Protocol Prometheus." Another pause. "That's experimental technology, Commander." "So were the anchors, Captain." "Permission granted. You have 10 minutes before total evacuation becomes mandatory." Takeda turned to his team. "Deploy quantum encoders. We're going to digitize this entire archive." Protocol Prometheus, named after the Titan who gave fire to humanity, was a quantum digitization system designed to preserve human colony worlds in case of catastrophic failure. It had never been used on non-human technology, much less something as complex as the Mazzari archive. As the engineers worked frantically to establish the quantum link, Captain Neela watched in astonishment. This technology, the Council classified it as theoretically impossible. "The Council," Takeda said without looking up from his work, "has consistently underestimated what becomes possible when you evolve on a death world." With minutes to spare, the quantum transfer began. The crystalline structures of the archive, dimmed as their informational essence, was converted to quantum data and transmitted to the human fleet above. Takeda ordered his forces to withdraw as the first major earthquakes began to shake the city around them. Evacuation complete, he reported as the last dropship lifted off. 90% of archive data secured. In orbit, Captain Santos watched as the remaining human ships positioned themselves at a safe distance. The Mazzari homeworld, wounded beyond recovery by the Harvester's attack, began to break apart from within. A slow-motion catastrophe that would unfold over days rather than hours. Message from Admiral Voss, her communications officer reported. "The Galactic Council has detected our presence and is dispatching the diplomatic fleet." Santos nodded, unsurprised. "Of course they are. Now that the fighting's done, they'll want to assert control." 3 days later, as the human fleet maintained position around the dying Mazzari world, and the surviving population gathered on emergency stations, the Council delegation arrived. Led by High Arbiter Tolan, a Centauri known for his anti-human stance, they approached with a show of force that would have been impressive in peacetime. Now, against a battle-tested human fleet that had just defeated an enemy the Council hadn't even known existed, it seemed merely theatrical. "Captain Santos," Arbiter Tolan's image appeared on the Retribution's main screen. "You have violated Council space, deployed forbidden technologies, and interfered in matters beyond human jurisdiction." Santos remained seated in her command chair, deliberately casual. "Arbiter Tolan, we responded to a distress call from a founding member of your Council when you failed to do so. We've preserved the Mazzari civilization and eliminated a threat to the entire galaxy. You're welcome." The Arbiter's composure slipped momentarily. This situation will require extensive review by the Council. The Mizari survivors will be transferred to our care immediately. I'm afraid that won't be possible until we complete the arc of restoration, Santos replied. Chancellor Xalan has formally requested human assistance in this matter. That is not his decision to make. Actually, a new voice joined the conversation as Chancellor Xalan himself appeared beside Santos. It is precisely my decision. The Mizari people owe a debt to humanity that cannot be measured. They came when no one else would. They fought when no one else could. The Chancellor turned to face the camera directly. Arbiter Tolan, I am formally invoking the right of existential debt. The Mizari place themselves under human protection until our civilization can be restored. The ancient law, unused for millennia, but still valid under council codes, left Tolan speechless. Santos allowed herself a small smile. I believe that concludes our business, Arbiter. We'll be happy to coordinate with council relief efforts, of course, under joint command. After the council ships withdrew to a respectful distance, Chancellor Xalan turned to Santos. You knew they would react this way. The council has been consistent in one thing, their fear of human potential, Santos replied. But fear can become respect, given time and proper motivation. And the archive. Can your technology truly restore it? Not completely, Santos admitted. Some things were lost, but enough remains to rebuild your civilization, and perhaps, in the process, to build something new between our peoples. As the Retribution led the fleet toward Earth, with the Mizari survivors under their protection, Admiral Voss received Santos's final report from the operation. The last line read simply, "The galaxy called for help, and humanity answered. They will remember this. They will remember us not as the Deathworlders they feared, but as the guardians they needed. And next time, they won't wait so long to call." The Phoenix Council, reviewing the report in their secure chamber, voted unanimously on their next action, to formally re-enter galactic politics, not as supplicants seeking admission, but as equals demanding recognition. Humanity had awakened from its self-imposed exile. The silent guardians had revealed themselves, and the galaxy would never be the same again.